Hello everybody, it's your non-binary pal E.V.A here, and I have more gay art to share, this time very much non-binary themed. This art series is probably one of my favorites I've made this year so far. These were inspired by some nail art I saw and wanted to challenge myself to make some extra glam styled artwork, including some nail designs. I also thought it would be a cool idea to have an art series that embodies each stripe of the non-binary flag, and that's how this whole thing kind of started. I planned for each one to be pretty desaturated with pops of color. Some of them are even going to become more on the grayscale side. For yellow and purple, they are obviously going to have a lot more colors, but for white and black, I give them small pops of color so that they aren't just entirely grayscale, but we'll talk about that later. Each character that I chose was also based off of another character that I had already designed. And since this was inspired by nail art, I gave everyone a unique nail pattern as well as makeup and accessories. They're also all done in my more painterly style. And when I started this, I actually did all the sketches together and actually colored them this time. And for some reason, I decided to start with the color purple. I have no idea why. I think I might have just forgotten what the order of the colors were, or I just really wanted to start with this one. But yeah, this one was super fun to work on. It ended up being one of my favorites. The hands were really hard to draw. Of course, I drew one of them backwards at one point. I do like how they turned out in the end. They are a little on the thicker side, but that's what tends to happen when I try to draw hands a little more realistically here. And I added in the nails and stuff, and like I said, with all of these I actually colored the sketch first, and that made choosing the colors way easier. I went with some desaturated purples for the skin and hair, and then some brighter purples for the hair gradient, the nails, the makeup, and the eyes, which will be a common theme with all of these artworks. And yeah, while I was working on the line art and struggling with the hands some more, I actually did something a little bit different here. Rather than just tracing everything, I actually went back in with a brush that's kind of meant for rendering and sort of like blended out the line art a little bit with a lighter color, and I really like how this looks in the end. Unfortunately, I forgot to do this with any of the other artworks. This is the only artwork I did this technique on, which is a shame because close up it does give the artwork a much kind of nicer, like blended in look. Unfortunately I didn't do that with any of the other ones, but when I was filling in the base colors, I tried filling them in so that there wouldn't be any gaps. And I also was choosing the accessory here. I wanted to choose one that was I used a brush. I should have clarified. I used a brush to find the accessory here, and I choose one that was more like where the gem part was like more star shaped, because everything in this drawing was going to be very star themed, including the makeup. I actually started working on the cell shading before I did the underpainting. I did the little rendering on the line art first, which I think is maybe why I forgot to do that, but I forgot to do the textured underpainting that I normally do, so I had to go back and do that quickly. And I don't think it looks quite as good as it would have if I did that first, but it's okay. Hopefully it's not too noticeable. And for this one, I also decided to blend in the cell shading as well, really going for that painterly look on this one. After all that, I continued on with my normal rendering stuff. I added some slight outline to the irises on this one, which is something I don't normally do. I thought it would add a bit of depth here. The eyes were very fun to shade. They were very star shaped, and I did a lot of overpainting on this one to adjust some things to keep the texture in as well. Towards the end of the background process, I also did a lot of figuring out of the halo and the theme, because I wanted to add a nice halo and also add some texture to the background. There's a little glow in the background there. And after all of that, I realized that the whole artwork just looked way too purple than I wanted it to. I wanted it to look a little more desaturated, so I added a color filter to correct that, a very grayscale color filter, and erased it in the spots where I wanted it to pop more. So yeah, and that definitely helped a whole lot. Made the piece look way better, a little less like super monochromatic and more contrasty with the saturated pops of color. That was it for this first one. I really like how this one looks. I think it's a kind of a shame that I didn't do the blendy line art thing that I did in this one with the other ones, but oh well, it's not super noticeable. the next color stripe that I decided to do was yellow. And I almost thought of adding a 3D model for this one because of the super complex pose I decided to go with for the hands, which yes, did take forever to do. They were like the figures were crisscrossed, and in the end I did get there, but I think the hands ended up being too big in the end is the only thing. I think they're just way too big, unfortunately, but oh well. At least the pose of the hands itself looks really cool. And as you can imagine, the liner took many layers to complete, and like I said, I didn't end up doing the blendy thing on this one, but I think with the complexity of the hands, that might have actually been a good thing. I didn't want to go crazy. The hair silhouette on this one ended up working really well for the halo. The character I chose, or like the design I chose for this one, had the shortest hair out of all of them, and the underside of their hair is actually a different color, which yeah, it looks really cool. And I kind of ended making that the glow area where kind of most of the light source was coming from. So yeah, that ended up looking really cool. So no hair gradient, but a different underside to the hair. I chose these like I was struggling with a bit on the accessories on this one, but I chose these cool like little like flower looking bow charms with a couple pearls as well to go along with that circular shape motif that's happening in this one. And yes, I did remember to do the underpainting first, which was super helpful. And yeah, overall this whole one was like a little more circle themed with some bows, because I added those in the nails, which are super sharp here, super sharp nails. So yeah, and like I said, I painted this with the underside of the hair as like the main glow source. And I like how that ends up looking in the end. I think that like brings the focal point to that area. The eyes were the simplest to shade on this one due to the fact that they are just kind of circles, but I really like how they look. They're very shiny. Yellow's pretty fun to work with. It depends on the type of yellow though. I really like warmer yellows like this one. Greener or neutral yellows are not my favorite, unfortunately, but a nice warm yellow like this one is really nice. I also did a lot of overpainting on this one, bring in some texture and to make everything a little smoother. I've been doing overpainting a lot in my drawings lately, and I kind of really like the process. It's a lot of color picking, but it just makes everything a little more painterly. I added a lot of sparkles onto this one in the hair and the eyes and stuff. I think this one might have way more sparkles than some of my other ones in this series, but that's okay because I like how that looks. And I did use the same halo pattern that I used for the last one in this one, but I used a different brush for the framing. For the last one I used some stars, and for this one I used a more circular, almost like bubblier brush that I have. And yeah, that was it for this one. The next one was the white stripe, the light stripe after the yellow. And yeah, this one is one of the grayscale ones that I chose. And the way I did the coloring for this one was that I did mostly all the white and like some light grays, but I also chose to add in a little bit of yellow. The reason why I chose a little bit of yellow is because it is the closest. The yellow is the stripe before the white one, and so I thought that would make a really cool like transitional phase, I guess, for that. Although thinking about it now, it might have made a little more sense to add maybe a little bit of purple so that I transition to the purple stripe, but I still like the decision there. It kind of blends the two stripes together. I always liked how the non-binary flag has like the pairing of like the lighter colors on top and then the darker colors on the bottom. I think that works really well, so that was kind of the thought process on this one. I do not like how the hands turned out on this one. They're a little but it's okay. I tried. I was bound to get some hands that I didn't end up liking in the end, so it was inevitable. Again, line art is just normal on this, and I used a lace brush for the accessories on this one, and the makeup was pretty light. I feel like I could have gone a little heavier with the makeup, you know, since this is a very glam themed art series, but it makes kind of sense, but at the same time, I kind of wish I went a little heavier. Can you tell this one maybe isn't my favorite so far? I do still like it, it's just not my favorite out of all of these. And the base colors overall looked pretty good, but yeah, I added in all the yellow spots, which were in the eyes and the nails, and a little bit in the shading, since yeah, I wanted to add a little bit of that glowing there, but not too much, just enough to add a little more color. And I also added a little bit of yellow in the background. I added some glowy texture to the skin, which I think looks cool. And later on, you'll see the hair shape was super hard to shade. I love this like hair shape that kind of like spikes back. I don't know how to explain it, but it kind of like spikes back, and it's not super realistic, it's very anime, but I do like how it looks stylistically. When it comes to actually rendering a hairstyle like this, it is a nightmare because the part is not visible. I don't know where the part is, so I don't really know where to render the strands towards. So a lot of times it ends up looking like a mess. But it sucks because I love giving this hairstyle to characters because it looks really cool with like flat colors, but I just don't know how to render it well and make it make sense. I don't know, but it's okay. It's fine. It's we don't need to worry about it right now. I used a little bit of yellow in the painting process and like a very light yellow for the glow. The eyes was probably the funnest part to render. I really like how the eye looked on this one. I think mainly because it was like the brightest, the one part of the drawing that I could add more saturation to. Yeah, probably should have done a little more overpainting to fix the hair. I really wish I did that. And like I said, the background had a little bit of yellow in it as well. And I think overall, it is a cool piece. I do still kind of like it, but not as much as the others as at all. I do struggle a bit with lighter colors in general, so that might be why. So yeah, this one would have probably benefited a lot from the Blenderly line art style because of how light the colors are. It probably would have made it like blend really nicely, but oh well, that's fine. And the last one was the black stripe. This one was much easier to work on than the lighter strip, although there was a little bit of problems at the end, and I'll talk about that. The hand was the simplest pose to work on this one. It's just pretty much just three fingers I have to worry about. I can draw them closed all right. So yeah, and the other hand is down. So a little. I'm glad I kind of drew the thumbnails in this way so that I could get the hardest hand poses done, and then I can finish with the easiest one. And for the black stripe, I decided to add in pops of purple. Same places as the light stripe, eyes and the nails. And this character design that I chose also has a scar, so I decided to place some purple in that scar as well. And for accessories, I went with some cool chains. And I also forgot to record some stuff. Whoops. I forgot to record some stuff, specifically the flat colors. I actually didn't render in the sketch on this one. I think it got burnt out from coloring the sketches when I got to this one. So yeah, I kind of had to figure that out. So let's get past that, but it's okay. It was just me trying to figure out all the colors, so it's kind of boring. It's a little boring. But yeah, I did say this was pretty easy to work on, but I was getting a little bit burnt out on this art series towards this one, so I did have to take a break. Just a little break and work on some other stuff, but I got back to it and I was able to finish it. Much like the light stripe, I added in a little bit of purple in the rendering here, and I think it works better on this one. I just have a much easier time working with darker colors overall, so even though this one was also very grayscale, it was a lot easier to work on, I think, because of that. And I also think that because of the darker colors, the eyes and nails really pop on this one. They're like, wow, really noticeable. And I also added a little bit of purple skin sparkles too, and purple in the makeup, of course. Strangely enough, I think I like the background the most in this one. I think the background looked the nicest in this one overall. I also adjusted the main character a little bit because their posing wasn't quite how I wanted it to be. I chose a diamond for their eye in this one and like a flower shape for the last one, and that kind of makes me wish I went with the card suit theme overall. That would have been really cool. Like, I should have gone with a card suit theme. That's okay. It's fine. I'll do a card suit theme drawings in the future because I do like that concept. Like I said, everything went fine except for one thing towards the end, and that one thing was that the drawing ended up being too dark. The character blended too much, and you can see the shape very well. Now, to be fair, my monitors, like my tablet and stuff, the colors do show up like a lot darker than they actually do. But even like in other screens I've seen it, like it's really dark. So yeah, I had to add in a bit of add glow to bring out the shape a bit more. But after that, it was all done, and all of these were all done. Thank you so much for watching. I had a really fun time with this art series, as you can tell. And these prints are actually up on my art shop right now. In the description below is on my website. You can check that out. And yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. And you're having a good Pride Month, you can check out my other stuff in the description below, all on my link tree. And that is pretty much everything for this one. I'll have another fun video out next week, and then I'm hoping to have a gateways video out the following week, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.